Memento mori, Stuart whispered the phrase to himself over and over as he picked both of his bags. The first was his gym bag, which he would be utilising this morning. The second was his medicine bag, which he would use later tonight. Once both bags were packed, he mixed his pre-workout blend to enhance his gym session, slung his gym bag over his shoulder, and walked out his bedroom. The brilliant sunshine hurt his eyes as he emerged from the poorly lit sanctuary he called his room. As he closed and locked his front door, the wind picked up and rustled the door. Squinting, he looked up at the sky. A bird of some sort circled his garden. He imagined it to be a bird of prey, looking for a meal to swoop down and capture. This thought made him smile. What a life such a bird must live, taking life as when it sees fit. The drive to the gym followed the same routine every day, with hardcore rock thumping from the speakers to rile him up. Once completed, more routine followed, with a shower and protein shake while getting dressed. The drive home would be the complete opposite of the previous trip, as Stuart would listen to softer soul music and take in the beautiful trees that lined the roads. Often he would even give $1 or $2 to a homeless person that would come tapping on his window for change. Humans are creatures of habit, and Stuart is no different. The only difference in the routine of the day would be the night festivities of this particular evening. Most nights he would cook dinner, eat in front of the television, and then proceed to watch more television in his bedroom. Tonight, however, was the 42nd Thursday of the year, an arbitrary fact to most, but not to Stuart. Tonight was his night to indulge, just as he let out the maniac in himself on the drive to gym. Tonight was the night he let the maniac out, loose on the world. People do not change much from youth to adulthood. Some maturity occurs, but the general character and behaviour of the individual remains. Stuart had always wanted to help the world, at least in a way that he saw fit. As a youth, this involved cleansing his neighbourhood of stray dogs and cats. He took no actual pleasure in the act, no more so than a postman would rejoice delivering mail. He simply felt it was something to be done. As he did it over the years, his method of euthanization had evolved from bludgeoning the animals to squeezing their necks until he heard the sick pop of confirmation that the neck had broken. But as all things in life evolve, so did his target for cleansing. Stuart had grown to realize that in order to cleanse the world, it was not dogs and cats that needed to be cleaned. It was the people. The people were the sickness. 41 Thursdays before the chosen night meant that he knew exactly what he was doing. He planned out his routines, as well as who his patients would be. Access to the sick was yet more proof that people cared not one bit about the sick. Throughout the course of his planning, he would walk into various hospitals. Talking to the nurses, he would gain the knowledge of whether they would still be in need of his services when the glorious night came. The ease and success of his planning was yet more proof given to him from God that this was indeed his mission in life. He worked from home as an architect, but Stuart had always wanted to be a doctor. He may not have the qualifications, but the work he did was equally as important. The only difference that Stuart saw between himself and traditional doctors were the clothes they wore. His choice of dress for the task at hand was a heavy overcoat paired with an authentic 1620s plague mask. After all, he couldn't risk getting the sicknesses. Once home from the gym, Stuart cooked and ate before taking a nap in preparation for the big night. He set an alarm for midnight, but the excitement for the evening woke him up 15 minutes before the scheduled time. He lay in his bed in the dark for a moment. He felt at peace in the dark. He looked around in the darkness at the outlines of the furniture in his room. His light breathing was the only sound around him. He flexed his toes and arched his back to stretch the sleep away. He sat up straight in the darkness. Stuart was ready to begin his night of work. Memento mori, he proclaimed to the darkness. The patrons of St. Barnabas ward, that for the mentally ill, were long asleep by the time the wind blew Stuart through the doors. He had his medicine bag in hand and the plague mask on as he sat beside his first patient. He never rushed the process. Each patient was as important and deserving as the next. Stuart picked up the patient chart and read the name out loud. James, I absolve you of your sins. May God have mercy on your soul. Memento mori. And with that, Stuart inserted the needle deep into the arm of sleeping James. The pancuronium bromide slowly left the syringe and set to work causing powerless and respiratory arrest. This method of cleansing was the best Stuart had found prior to this. He had held a pillow over the face of his patients. He moves from patient to patient with the obvious speed of a very experienced executioner. As he injects the saving liquid into his last patient, her eyes suddenly shoot open and stare into the hollow eye sockets of the mask. Memento mori, Stuart tells her as she looks at him in confusion. All she manages out is Birdman, before her muscles lock up and her breathing stops. He strokes her hair gently and admires his work. She is silent, and he knows he has done a good job. God's work. Packing his utensils back into his bag, he heads back home. He has work tomorrow. Life goes on. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you enjoy the content, then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of new content. I met a really nice guy called Jeff in the resort I went on holidays with my friends to. I loved to just lie down and relax and feel the peaceful atmosphere all around me. I loved how the island looked when I looked it up online, but somehow it even exceeded my expectation. We were enjoying our time during the day because he was working nights, then had to get to sleep for a few hours. We were really enjoying the sun, so it was kinda cool him having the day off. He looked so cool and had blonde hair and wore sunglasses. My friends Sarah and Judy went off with other guys they met, so it was just as well I met Jeff, or I'd be on my own in this resort. I actually wouldn't mind, only for there being a serial killer breaking into people's apartments and murdering them in their sleep. One girl survived and told the police that he was wearing all black and some sort of ski mask or scarf or something, but she noticed something very strange about his eyes. The police wondered, did he wear contact lenses, or for some strange reason was that really the colour of his eyes? They couldn't even draw up a sketch of the serial killer, as all they had to go on was he had strange red eyes. Me and Jeff didn't let a serial killer loose on the island ruin our fun, so we continued to have as much fun as we could, including surfing. It was so beautiful, feeling the breeze while going along the water on the surfboard. When we got back, I was watching the evening news. It was about the killer. I went to fetch a towel from the shower and accidentally walked in on Jeff. He froze when he saw me and looked right at me with eyes that were the colour red. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you enjoy the content, then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of new content. Jack was a career criminal. He made a small fortune for himself, committing different crimes over the years, and he was very good at going undetected. He was never caught for any crime he committed. If he wrote a book about how he did it, it would be a bestseller with criminals. Jack lived in a mansion in the Hamptons and used to love to chill out by the swimming pool with a cocktail and enjoy the high life his crime allowed him. He loved to think of the saying, "Crime pays," and he added to it, especially when you're a smooth criminal like himself. He felt like going for a road trip one day, so decided to take a trip across the country. He felt like going on a journey with no destination, just drive and enjoy the scenery, so that's exactly what he did. He drove and drove, stopping at motels now and then, and there were times he drove from daytime all through the night. He snorted lots of cocaine to stay awake. He ended up in this small town, which only seemed to have a diner, bank, post office, and another handful of shops. He decided the bank was an easy target, so made up his mind he was going to rob it. When he was in the room in the motel, he saw a flyer that said, "Give blood to the blood bank. Call 1-800-BLOOD BANK now." He thought back to when he was younger, before his life of crime. One of the ways he made money was give blood, and he would get payment for his blood. He'd realised it was a very good thing to do, helping people. When he finally entered the bank wearing a mask, he held the gun to the girl behind the counter and shouted, "Hold up your hands and give me the money." The girl got a fright and held up her hands in panic. After a few minutes, the girl passed over loads of money in bags, and Jack left the bank and jumped in his car. He decided to not bother go back to the diner. It wasn't worth the risk of getting caught, so he just drove out of town. But before he could even get halfway down the road, he saw a very strange sight. There were lots of pale women in black dresses in a line all across the road. He stopped the car. He got out and shouted, "What the hell is this? I'm trying to drive on the road." One of the women pointed towards him and said, "You must have seen the flyer, which said give blood to the blood bank. That is a sort of cryptic message to our coven. You see, we are witches, and we have a witches' coven, and that bank is where we fund our coven. And you have taken all our money, so it's not a case of you giving blood. It's a case of us spilling your blood." With that, all the women walked towards Jack, and with knives started cutting into him until his blood poured out of his lifeless body, which lay dead on the ground. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content. Matthew was a bright kid. He had his good points and was even actually caring and could be very helpful when he wanted to be. But he fell down in one big way. He always used to love to play stupid pranks on people. And these pranks really started as just silly pranks at first, like maybe putting a bucket of iced water over a door that he knew his friend would walk through, and one time he put a rat in a gift box for his friend. He used to get a kick out of pranking people, and it got him into a lot of trouble over the years. But it was one day when he was older, and he should have known better, he did the most dangerous and stupid prank of all. Actually, it couldn't even be called a prank. It was just crazy, reckless, dangerous, and stupid. He was standing up on the top of an apartment he lived in, way up high at the top of a skyscraper, and he decided to see what would happen if he left a sharp knife fall from the top. The knife fell down and eventually, before hitting the ground, unfortunately hit a guy and killed him stone dead. Matthew didn't intend to hurt anyone, but he sure as hell wasn't going to admit it was him, and he sure didn't want to get caught for murdering someone. So he just kept his mouth shut. Little did he know there was a woman looking at the whole thing across the way with a pair of binoculars. The next day the woman was telling the mom of the dead boy, "I am very sorry to tell you this, but I know who killed your son." A few days later, Matthew was walking into his apartment, and the light wasn't working. He fell over some wire. He landed on lots of knives that were fixed into a plank of wood and died from loss of blood as the knives plunged through his body and head. The mom of the boy that Matthew killed smiled when she saw Matthew in a pool of blood. She was glad her plan of revenge worked. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content.